Hi, I'm Melissa. Welcome to Wed and Worth It. We're going to have transparent conversations around budgets and walk through the emotional journey that is wedding planning. We're going to discuss the value of investing in meaningful moments and the joy that comes from creating an experience for yourselves and your loved ones. We talk to newly married couples to find out, was it worth it? Hello! Today we are chatting with Kate from Sunshower Weddings. She is a planner on the Big Island of Hawaii. I hope you enjoy this episode. Hi, I'm so excited to have Kate here. She is a wedding planner based out of Hawaii. We actually go a little bit back. We knew each other in high school, and I've gotten to watch her journey from both of us being in the Chicago suburbs to both of us no longer being in the Chicago suburbs and both being in the wedding industry. So, Kate, tell me about your journey. Tell me about your business. Give us the lowdown.
Great. Thanks. Thanks so much, Melissa. Yeah, I live in Hawaii. I live on the Big Island in Kona specifically, or in a little town called Hulualoa, just outside of Kona on the Big Island. I actually own a coffee farm, and I started my wedding journey as a venue owner. We had weddings on our farm, and it just was a natural extension of the farm, kind of like a vineyard, where you have weddings on your property and it's really beautiful and people want to get married there. And then I just really wasn't that into farming anymore and was way more into weddings. And then when COVID happened, we went on a journey trying to essentially expand our venue. We weren't able to get the proper permits for that just because we're zoned for agriculture. So after that, we leased out our coffee, subleased it to a farmer who does still farm the coffee. But I don't farm day to day anymore. And then I started doing planning full time. So as opposed to being a venue owner for about the first 5 years of my wedding career, now the second 5, the back 5, I've been a planner. And I specialize in destination weddings on the Big Island of Hawaii.
What do you feel like the biggest differences are between being a venue owner and a wedding planner?
Oh my gosh, being a venue owner is so much better. Let me just say that. I mean, being a planner is really fun because you can challenge yourself to all sorts of different locations and circumstances and weather and looks, and you can really be creative so much more when you are a planner. But as a venue owner, you have so much control. So if you like to be in control, a venue owner is your way to be. You can decide what vendors are allowed at your venue. You can decide what couples to work with. All of your rules and policies, you set them yourself. So you don't have to work within a framework set by somebody else like you need to do when you're a planner. You get to develop the framework yourself.
I think that's interesting. You do have way more control when you're a venue owner. It's funny because I feel like you have a lot of control when you're the planner as well, but there's so many things that are out of your control.
Yeah. Just the venue's policies alone, okay, this can be set up this many feet from here, or this many things can go on this outlet, or where generators can go, how parking can be, how many people for each bathroom, things like that, that you would just not even think. What time can you arrive for setup? When can you load and load out the day before? When you're the venue owner, you can just make those decisions. If a wedding comes your way and it has a multi-day load in and it's going to be a really complex setup, you can just say okay, well, I'm going to allow it this time or make whatever exceptions, or you can just make your life as a venue owner easier. As a planner, that's not
Other rules that are set in place by
right.
People venue owners.
Venue owners, yeah. And they have their own reasons for having those rules, and no hate to them, but yeah, it is harder.
Are you doing weddings that are on the Big Island, or do you go to other islands as well?
I don't go to other islands. We have a team of 4 other people, including me. So we're a team of 5, and we only plan on the Big Island. As far as I know, we are the only company who does that. There are some companies who only do Maui or who only do Oahu, but a lot of the other companies on my island will do the other islands. Part of the reason why I will only do the Big Island is because these are different markets when it comes to things like rentals, available vendors, caterers. It's not I know that you're based in Scottsdale, Melissa. It's not we can get someone from Phoenix,
Yeah,
or whatever.
absolutely.
I mean, that's really close, but a farther away city, you could even have if there's a great rental company in Vegas, you just pay way more for delivery. It's far drive, but you can do it.
Yeah.
Whereas on the Big Island, like we just can't really get rentals from the other islands. We can't get most other vendors. You could maybe get a caterer, but then they would have to rent a commercial kitchen on our island and fly over everyone. There's no ferry system or anything like that. So each island is really its own very specialized market, very insular. And part of the reason why I think you should hire a wedding planner, why couples should hire a wedding planner, is so that it's not reinventing the wheel. Your wedding planner should know how to navigate everything for your wedding. And we legitimately could not do that on another island.
That makes sense. So it's almost like a completely different, I don't want to say state, but like it's just a wholly different atmosphere.
Like I mean, it's worse than being in a different state because you can't drive. Like you could always do a far drive from somewhere to somewhere else with whatever the items are, but that is just not a choice whatsoever for Hawaii.
Okay, and this is kind of going into my next question, which is, I think it ties together, but like who your couples are. So when they're coming to you, it's because you know the Big Island and who and where to source things from. So I'm assuming that your couples, even though they've never been married before, I'm assuming maybe you work with a lot of destination.
Yes, we work almost exclusively with destination couples, but that does not mean they're not from here.
Okay.
I would say about half of our couples are from Hawaii in some way. Maybe one of the, I would say about half, maybe 40%.
Okay.
Maybe one person in the couple was born and raised here, maybe on Big Island, maybe on a different island, or maybe they live on Oahu together, or they live on Maui, because Big Island is like the rural version. For couples who are familiar with the Texas market, for example, Big Island would be like the Texas hill country that's near Austin. And then Austin would be like Oahu. We're like the rural area. We have like a lot of farms and beautiful vistas. It's very sleepy and slow, but in a way that makes for a lot of beautiful venues. So people who are from the other islands often will come to Big Island for their weddings. We do get a lot of clients from Hawaii, but it's pretty rare. I mean, I would say only 2 or 3 a year that we have where the couple actually lives on the Big Island.
So how many venues would you say? Like, are there like a certain number of venues? I'm just curious. I know we have a lot here.
Yeah, we have a lot of hotels in addition to our other venues. And we have restaurants and stuff too. I mean, we have a venue list and it has about 40 venues on it.
Wow, that's a good amount.
I wouldn't call all of them venues though. Like some of them are just restaurants where like a lot of people have a wedding on a beach, let's say, and then have their reception in a restaurant. So some of these are just restaurants or breweries or things like that where you could have your reception, not your ceremony.
What is the general like size of wedding, the guest count?
This is a really hard one because a lot of people choose to get married in Hawaii or have a destination wedding in general to cut their guest list. They're like, we want to have less people, so therefore let's do a destination wedding. So our weddings last year ranged, I think our smallest was 9 and our largest was 150.
That's a good range.
And so it's just like a huge range. And then, but the largest we've ever done is I think 175.
Okay.
It's extremely rare to get a wedding, even a request for a wedding over 200. The only venues that can hold over 200 are hotels.
That was my question, was how many venues are actually capable of having a larger guest count like that?
Yeah, only hotels. But there are a lot of hotels.
All right.
So,
that makes sense.
You could go with those. Yeah.
Okay. So what does your process look like from start to finish once a couple inquires? How far out are they inquiring usually?
I don't know if it's just our clients or our market in general, but I think it's for everyone, is that our weddings are planned fast compared to the mainland. I got married in Chicago. I booked my venue 27 months out. So over 2 years.
And I feel like that's probably pretty standard
that was
still.
normal. Yeah, that was normal.
Yeah.
At that time, it was just like, this is, if you want a Saturday, and we got married in October, you want a busy month, that's just what it is. And for the Big Island, we won't even take bookings over 2 years out. Many venues and planners won't even take bookings more than a year out because it's just not the way the market works.
I bet, does that stress people out at all?
They're like, we're behind because they're from New York or Chicago or whatever. They're from these markets where like they have to plan so far. But when we explain No, like everything's available. They're like, okay, okay. And, they can relax a little more. But yeah, the vast majority of our weddings book with us between 8 to 12 months out from their
Okay.
wedding. So the year of their wedding, or like the calendar, the 12 months before their wedding is the time that they're booking. We do get some that are over a year out, of course, but it's the exception, not the rule.
Okay. Is that like, would you say the exception is like larger weddings that have like a bigger production, or?
I would say it's like where the couple is more concerned about their guests being able to come.
Okay.
Like, and so sometimes that's larger. It means like they want to have a bigger guest count come. And so they're trying to tell them like far in advance, here's the date, here's the place, so that they can get all of their guests who they want to come. So to some extent, it's dependent on the couple. Sometimes they are wanting less people to come. So they'll tell them shorter because they don't want a big wedding. And the only way to do that is to have a destination wedding. So I think it really depends. But no, we do really large production schedule weddings all the time on short notice. I mean, when I say short notice, it's not like it's 2 weeks from now, but I have an inquiry right now that I'm working with, and they have a 200-person wedding and they want to get married in August. So
Wow.
And it's January right now for anybody listening to this recording.
Yeah, that's great. So like 7 months. Yeah. Wow. I mean,
to me, that's very fast, but like I can do it. It's more like, can they do it?
Yeah.
Can they get their dress in time and stuff like that? Can they get all their pieces that are separate from the wedding itself, the event itself?
Do they usually have a venue already? So I guess like full planning versus like partial. What are you usually doing, or coordination?
Yeah, so we have a package that we offer. We call it our Kickstarter package, and I know a lot of planners offer this, or they will offer it if you just ask. Like, even if it's not on their website, this is something you can talk to a planner about, and usually they'll come up with something for you, which is essentially a package where they will help you with your venue search only, and then that's it. And because we get to the point, when I say that's it, we book a lot of these, probably 3 or 4 a month. And of those, about only half even choose to get married in Hawaii. We look for a venue for them. We do a full budget for them. We go over exactly what their wedding will be, like budget out their dream wedding, all of that. And then they maybe are doing the same thing simultaneously with Europe or with where they live at home or whatever. And then they decide, okay, Hawaii is not for us. Like, you don't know if you want to get married, have a destination wedding at a specific destination until you see all the stuff, like all the details.
Service, I've never heard of that before. I think that is super cool.
Yeah, I think it's really common, actually. Like, it's just not as advertised.
Okay.
But if you're a client or a couple who's interested in a destination wedding, and you're between two totally different venues, like you're between New York City or, California or something, or Scottsdale, in that case, I would contact a planner in both places and see if they would be willing to offer you something along those lines for you to make your decision. You have to pay for it. Like, it's not free, but it's much, much less expensive than booking them as your official planner and then deciding later you're not even getting married there. So starting with venue search is really common for us. And we do it for almost every couple, even those who end up not booking, if that makes sense.
Yes, no, that totally makes sense. I haven't heard of that, and I'm curious. That makes me curious if planners are doing that here locally in Arizona, because we do have a lot of destination couples. I'd say I also work with.
How many people are sure they're going to get married there. Like, there is something about Hawaii. I can't speak for other destination markets, but there's something about Hawaii that people are just not sure they're getting married there. They're like between Hawaii and somewhere else, usually. And I don't know if that's the case for Scottsdale or, Phoenix, greater Phoenix area. Like, is it the case that people are certain they're getting married in that market? They're just not sure what venue. If that's the case, then of course you're ready to book a planner.
Yeah, I would say for the most part, I feel like the couples I'm working with, at least they've told me like, oh, they went back and forth, maybe between a couple different places, and then they did land on Scottsdale, or they flew in for the weekend. But again, it's probably a little bit easier to get to here from, say, Chicago than over to the island.
Yeah, it's hard to say, actually. But yeah, it's a common package. We sell them all the time.
That is so cool. I'm gonna bring that up to like planner friends, and I'll be like, "Hey, are y'all doing this? Because you should be doing this. That's like such an awesome service to be providing, like on the outside." And so then the couples that do now, like too, like you've earned their trust.
It's so great too because I think it establishes trust when you haven't met each other. We're doing everything over Zoom. They're not on island. So that's the first great piece. But the other thing is it allows you to sell something that's less expensive. Like for photographers, you guys can do an engagement session or a 1 hour session or something like that. But like as planners, we just don't have something to sell that's not so expensive.
Yeah.
And as a service, it's just at a lower price point. So that's nice too, because it can be hard to acquire, an $8,000 client or whatever. When we say we offer this package, ours costs about $700. They're like, oh yeah, no problem. We'll do that because it's an approachable price point. And it just is such a relief to them that somebody's helping them, that they're like, okay. There's another sneaky piece. I don't know if most of your audience are vendors or if most of them are couples, but something for you guys to know. Regardless, if the couple's crazy, we can just say, sorry, I don't think we're a good fit after the Kickstarter. Like, we don't have to go down the road of working with them and hating it the whole time. We can just say that it's not a fit and we don't have to take on their wedding, even if we did help them book their venue.
I mean, yeah, you can get a certain vibe on Zoom, but once you have like a little taste of working together, it's probably a lot more clear.
It's so rare. But like, I would say once a year, we'll get a couple that were like, if we would have known all this back when they wanted to book, we would not have booked them. And the Kickstarter, it tells us like, oh, okay, we get to know it in advance. So that is just, it's invaluable. It's like worth it.
Yeah, it's valuable for so many reasons. And so, like, follow-up question, I'm assuming then you also don't do very much like coordination.
Sort of. We have a team of 5. So I don't take coordination clients. I only take full planning clients. And there are other planners on our team who only take full or partial clients. But we do have 3 planners on our team who will take, we call them DIY clients, where they're like DIYing their planning, or wedding management is another term for it. But then we come in towards the end and then do their coordination. So we do offer it, but I personally don't offer it just because I can't, it would be too many clients a year, essentially. My client.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, we offer it.
Yeah, okay, that's awesome. So they book and may or may not have their venue because of you, most likely do. And then tell me about from then until wedding day.
Yeah, once they have their venue, well, the order depends on if we budgeted before they book their venue or if we budgeted after. If a client already comes to us with their venue, usually they haven't done a budget. Maybe they've done like a quick one on their own, to make sure that they could afford this venue, but it's not a detailed budget. Like, we're going to get this photographer for 6 hours and they're this amount, it's not with that level of detail. So if they come to us with a venue, very, very first step is budgeting. And if they come to us without a venue, before they get the venue, our very first step is budgeting. And we budget out for different venues to make sure that the venue they want is going to be within their budget. The thing that I hate the most is when couples book a venue that is not affordable to them. It's kind of like when someone buys a house that they can't afford and then there's no furniture inside because they ran out of money. It's like that for weddings.
Does that
like
happen often?
I mean, I wouldn't say often, but it happens where they'll have this beautiful venue and then we have to scale back every single thing. And it just gets so disappointing. The wedding planning process is not fun for them anymore because everything they want, they can't have. Every single thing, we're like, well, how do we make that less expensive? How do we make that less? Across the board. And it's like, they want to pick out the DJ they want. Well, we're doing a Spotify playlist. We want to pick out, like for everything. And it's just such a bummer.
Okay, so let's talk about budget a little bit. Yeah. What percentage of your budget would go towards venue if you still want to be able to have some of those other things you would like to have?
It's tricky because when we're talking about wedding budgets, we're talking about fixed costs versus variable costs. And I don't know, you got to go back to econ or whatever class you took and learn this, but fixed costs are costs that are the same regardless of your guest count, and variable costs are costs that your guest count changes. So your fixed costs would be things like your venue, your DJ, your photographer, your videographer, your hair and makeup, your planner, usually your planner. All of those things are fixed costs, meaning that they will be the same no matter if you have 10 people or if you have 100 people. That's the cost of those vendors. And so when we're talking about what is the percentage of your budget, if you only have 20 people, your budget is going to be much lower. Let's say your budget's $20,000 for 20 people. Well, your venue could be 5,000 of that, and that's 25%. Your venue could be 10,000 of that, and then it's 50%. But it's not really a fair, guide to say like each thing should be this percent, because when people are talking about things like that, usually they're saying like somewhere between 100 and 150 person wedding. They're given with like the average wedding in mind of that size, and they're not given with the knowledge that you could be having like a way smaller, way bigger wedding. If you're having a 200 person wedding, your venue cost should be an extremely low percentage of your budget. It should be like 5% at the highest. So it's just different. Well, maybe not the highest, but it's just different. Fixed cost versus variable variable cost is really important. I would say that if after all of your fixed costs, you should have at least $300 a guest left in your budget.
Okay, that's an interesting
adding up
rule.
all your other stuff. And then if you have more, that would be great. But that will give you, with most venues, enough for your food, beverage, florals, like on the low end, for your food, beverage, florals, decor. And then on the high end, you should have, I mean, on the high end, you could spend like $1 million on your wedding. You can spend any amount on your wedding, but the high end within normal, you should have, 1,500 to 2,000 a guest, I would say.
Okay.
So somewhere in that range after your fixed costs.
When you're working with your client, are you tackling those fixed costs first?
Yeah, it is intense. The spreadsheeting is intense. And this is a advice to anybody who's hiring a wedding planner. You need someone who is good at a budget. They need to be good, not good at I guess it's nice for them to be good at design and beautiful mood boards and like a great Instagram feed and stuff. But if their spreadsheet is not like a banging spreadsheet, that should be a red flag to you. They should be really good at it.
See what weddings you've worked on. Let me see the freaking budget.
Yes, exactly. No, it really is true, because the biggest complaint I see on bride groups and on Reddit and different things, or I hear from other couples, is I told my wedding planner my budget and they just sent me all these things that weren't in the budget. And I don't think it's because the wedding planner is like a mean person or didn't care about the budget. I think it's because they're not good at it. It's like a right brain, left brain thing. And some are so, so amazing at design, but then they need to have someone on their team who's good at budgeting if they're not good at it. But yeah, so as far as the budgeting, like what does it look like? It is extremely detailed. So all of our clients get a low, medium, and high budget for their ideal wedding. So let's say your ideal wedding, Melissa, had a band. In the band category, we'd have what is the lowest we could spend on a band and still have it be fun, like a good band, medium, and then high end. And that's for every single category. It wouldn't be like the low category is no band at all, because they want a band. So we go through their ideal wedding of all the things they're looking for, and then the low, medium, and high. So we look at like their Pinterest board and all their different things that they want. And let's say they want like a family style dinner. We're not pricing out a food truck.
So when you have those low, medium, and high ranges, do you have specific vendors in mind that would fit within those?
Yes, we do. I mean, we don't just to some extent, for the florals, for example, we have like general averages based on previous weddings we've done before, because anyone who's priced out florals knows it's not just like, okay, bridal bouquet is $300 or whatever.
Florals are all over the freaking place.
Right. It's like, what flowers do you want? Like, what are they going to look like? What is the style, the shape, the size, like all these things. So, yes, we do price it with specific vendors in mind. With rentals, it's way easier. I can be like, okay, this chair is $10, per guest or whatever. This chair is $15. There are certain things that are very easy to price the exact price in the budgets with a specific vendor. And then there's other categories like floral, where I'm looking at the Pinterest board and I put in previous weddings we've done and say like, okay, a style like this would be this cost, a style like this is this, and so on.
Okay, interesting. That is usually, that you said that's pretty quick after they book.
It's our very, very first step. The only time we don't do it is occasionally we'll get a couple that says like, oh, we don't have a budget. We just want to approach each category as it comes. And we say like, okay,
Love it.
Yeah, I mean, occasionally
Is
that's
it
the
almost
case,
like
but
too much freedom?
yeah, I mean, no, I just send them options like, okay, this is the option I like the best. And usually they'll say, like, oh, okay, no problem, sounds
I
good.
love that. Easy going.
Occasionally we'll get those people that they'll be like, this amount for that, like let's say for photography, they say no budget, okay, we want a photographer full day, whatever. I send them quotes for $7,000, $10,000, the lowest being like maybe 5,500, and they come back to me like, what, they're just working one day. And I'm like, okay, it's clear that we need to do a budget then, because if you don't understand what the prices are before receiving the quotes, you're gonna have this reaction to every single
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. We're gonna need to take a step back and do a
And
little bit of education first.
right, exactly. So it depends on the couple, how it goes, but typically the no budget people are fine. I can't relate to them, but
I would love to, on like a spiritual level, relate to them.
yeah, for sure.
That's so funny. Okay, so after budget, then what?
Then I think every company does a little differently. For my company, we call it our planning phase timeline, but I've also heard it called the planning roadmap for the year. Essentially, whatever amount of time we have between when they book and their wedding is the amount of planning time we have. And then we have this list of things that we need to get done. And together with the couple, we decide when all of those due dates are going to be, so to speak. So there are certain ones that we're like, okay, we have to do these first, then things that can go later. Then there's some things that have to be at the end. For example, the seating chart. We can't do that early because we don't have RSVPs. So we have an order of how we're going to do things. And then we assign out when we're going to do those things together as a team. If a couple, like somebody's in medical school or someone's a teacher, maybe they have the summers off or whatever the case might be, that will impact when we we decide for the year. Then once we have the planning schedule, then we start working our way down
What's your favorite part of the planning process?
of planning.
Yeah.
I would say design, probably, even though I just said all of that about the spreadsheet, but it can be a problem, or it can be like a red flag or a yellow flag if a planner only likes design.
Mm.
If that's the only part that they excel at, because that's such a small piece of the process. When we're working with a client, that's like, I don't know, 5% of what we do for them is the design. So it's just really fun, and I like to see what they send and what ideas they have. And also, like, you get to see what everybody else is doing in the industry and build off of what other people are doing, and you get to be creative. So I like that. I also like it when you get to the dancing at the very end of the wedding, because by then, like, everything has happened, all the hard parts are done, all the toasts, all the speeches, all the first dances. Everybody's just like a little drunk usually, and then usually the clients are like, you're the best wedding
Yes.
planner ever, like, thank you so much. And you're like, oh, thank you, you're welcome.
There's just this really special relationship that's developed, and there's this like
Definitely.
gratitude that exists in that relationship.
Also for you, that's like when the bulk of your work starts.
Yeah.
You're the opposite of us. So our work is over. By then, I just have to send like some review links and, do a little wrap up. And you're like, okay, now I need
Yes,
to
I'm like,
edit
now
all this.
my work has begun. We'll be in touch. Don't
Right.
you worry.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a little bit opposite.
It is.
I kind of feel bad for photographers and videographers that way, that you start with the most fun part and then you have to do the bad part
It's
after.
a lot of work, and I feel like, I mean, for me, I have to go through the images within the first 48 hours, or all of a sudden I have a mountain of photos waiting for me at my computer,
Yeah.
and it's daunting. But if I do it within like the first 36 hours, I'm like still hyped up. I'm pumped. I can like pick the sneak peeks pretty easy. I remember,
Right.
yeah, but otherwise, yeah. And then the final, like sending out the final gallery, I go through it one last time. Like I've gone through it like 4 or 5 times. I go through it one last time, like just for me to like relive the day, and it's super fun.
Yeah. I love that. Well, we really appreciate it. It is like Christmas morning when I get a gallery in my inbox. So it's so fun.
I get nervous, like still, I've been doing it for like 10 years, and I'm always like, this is my heart on a platter. I hope we like it.
I know, it's nerve-wracking. I mean, you can't please everybody, but in general, once you've been doing it enough years,
Yeah.
the people who aren't happy with whatever you're providing are so low in comparison to the people who are happy with it. So it really helps because it's like, okay, I have, hundreds of 5-star reviews or whatever. And then even if somebody is unhappy. They're in the minority, and you really can't please everyone. So yeah.
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
I actually, that reminds me of something I did want to say. Some of the photographers we love working with the most and we continuously want to recommend over and over again are the photographers who take pictures of us.
Yes.
And not a lot of pictures. Like, it's not like in your clients' galleries, you need to be sending
Yes.
like 10 pictures of the wedding planner. But if there's 2 or 3 of, us like setting out place cards or whatever, it is so wonderful because we are never in any photos. And I was just redoing our website, and the photographers who do take pictures of us, they're all over our website. It's like only 3 or 4 actually out of the 30 or so photographers whose work is featured.
I do. I think it's really important. I agree. I did a wedding recently, and the planner, I was doing the detail photos, and I was like, you put so much heart, like blood, sweat, and tears into this design.
Totally.
And you look fabulous actually while you're doing it.
Okay, well, not me because it is really hot here, but maybe that planner does. I don't look that good at the weddings, but I mean, I
You do.
I
You
don't
do.
look terrible. We're just like sweaty.
I mean, yeah, you're
I have a
working
next
hard.
fan to help. Yeah.
It's funny.
All of our weddings are outside too. We don't have any air conditioned. We actually don't have any indoor venues at all. So, which is like something that most planners think is crazy, but there's not a single inside venue other than hotel ballrooms, which we use as a backup for rain.
Yeah.
On our entire island.
That's wild. But I will say we have a couple venues like that here too, but we have very little rain. But there's always a weekend like in the spring and a weekend in the fall that it like pours. I don't know what it is, and I don't know if it's like that in Hawaii as well, but like there was one weekend and we were all chatting actually at a networking event a couple weeks ago. There was just one weekend in October that all of a sudden out of nowhere, and there was multiple planners, like there was no like rain backup plan.
Yeah.
It was funny because the wedding I had was a little bit more north, and I could see the cloud, and we just had to start the reception a little bit early, and it was inside. But there's a few venues here that there's really not like a great option for indoors.
That's not the case, because when I said we don't have indoors, we have a lot of covered spaces that are open air.
Okay.
Like pavilion type things. It rains. It rains always. Like and we do tents for tent backups, and no, it rains at every single wedding. I would say it rains at 85% of my weddings. I mean, when I say it rains, it's not like it's pouring the whole day. We're not talking about storms. Tropical rains is like a little quick shower. It comes through and then passes. But yeah.
We're very similar. Almost all of our venues are outdoors. I'll do like maybe one church wedding a year.
For your dinners too? Because don't people need air conditioning?
Yeah. Yes. The thing is the desert will cool off in the evenings. Sometimes I think people come out here, September, if people are getting married in September, it's not going to be super pleasant. We need an AC. But like October, November, late October, November, like it's usually you can guarantee it's going to be beautiful. Sure.
Yeah, so that is a difference for us with the venues with the outdoor, but it's surmountable.
Okay, so after the wedding day ends, we got reviews and your couple sail off into the sunset.
Yes. Okay. I don't know if all planners do this, but we send a review link. So for every vendor, like where you can review every single vendor on their team.
That's cool.
Which is great because there's some vendors like shuttle companies and stuff, they pretty much never get reviews. So, we like to put them in there.
Do you just have like links to their like Google?
Yeah, their Google, their Wedding Wire, and Not, etc. Yeah. So we send out a thing for that. And then we also have a survey that we send to all of our clients too about like our services and all of our different planning tools and what was good and what was bad. And then we also have a section where they can complain about their vendors. Like, was there any vendors that you really didn't like their work? You know, sometimes they won't tell us on the day. And then later we'll find out like, oh, actually I hated my makeup or whatever. So that gives them an opportunity to talk about it.
Yeah, I love that you give them the space to do that too. And that's helpful. Sure. I mean, that's really insightful for you instead of just.
Yeah, they don't always want to write a bad review because maybe it wasn't like to the level of that. But yeah, it's good to know.
Okay, so tell me a couple things that you're seeing within the wedding industry that you were wanting to chat about.
Like
Yeah.
trends? Okay, so one of the trends that I am dying to do, I pitch it to every single couple and they just like don't do it. I don't know. Is a caterpillar table. Do you know what that is, Melissa?
They're beautiful.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So for listeners who don't know, this is when round tables are put together in one long
Mm.
table. So they
Kind
are
of like an
just
S
touching.
curve, like.
Yeah, it can curve a little bit, but it's kind of like when you think of a caterpillar, how it has the different little sections of its body.
Yes.
It's like that. But a table, the thing I really love about it is a lot of the hotels only have rounds. So you're able to use the tables that are included for free with your venue while
In a more
also
creative
having
way.
a different look. Yeah. So I really want to do that. Everyone's like, yeah, I don't know. I really just want rectangles. And I'm like, okay.
We'll throw that out into the universe.
Yeah, caterpillar tables. I'm manifesting that for myself for 2025. It's to the point now though, like when I first saw it, I was on like the cutting edge of the trend. I'd seen only a couple planners do it. At this point now, a lot of people have done it. I will also say something I'm seeing a lot more with my clients is family style service where the food
Mm,
is part of the tablescape. And I don't mean like the food for the entire dinner, but
okay.
like when you sit down, there's maybe breadsticks, you have different heights and bowls of olives or dip and warm bread, or you have like, like if you've been to restaurants where you have like olive oil and balsamic
Yes.
to mix type of thing. Like the food that when you sit down to the table is part of the tablescape. Also wine bottles going down the table that are there for people to fill themselves. I really love it when couples want to prioritize the guest experience and do things that are a little outside of the norm that are also for guest experience like that. So I like that. Oh, and then another trend, I don't know if this is a trend or just something I've seen like a couple times, but I want it to be a trend, is having staff seat the guests as though they're like at a restaurant rather than.
Oh, I like that. And that's almost like the exact opposite end. It's very formal.
Yeah, it's formal, but I like it because I think it's just such a nice touch. And they can also ask, like, oh, would you like a drink or do you want red or white wine?
Mm,
So they're pre-checking in as far as what the drinks are going to be and things like that, just to make the service feel really high touch and high end. And it doesn't really cost much more money. If you have all those servers anyway,
yeah.
you would just have them.
How does that logistically, are they just like lined up waiting for the guests to come in?
Yeah, I mean, usually when we have guests being sat from cocktail hour, it's pretty rare that there's a mad rush. The DJ is announcing it and like asking people to go, usually for about 10 minutes before we actually get everybody to
Mm,
sit. So, there's a period of time. It depends on, of course, the venue. If you're like switching venues fully and walking like way across a venue or something to a new place, it's a little bit different. But if the cocktail hour space is somewhat near the dinner, you get stragglers. It's not like every single person is trying to sit down
that's
and
true.
things like
That's true. And then I just imagine everything is a lot more relaxed and chill, and everyone's enjoying their time.
the nice thing is everyone's on vacation. You don't get a lot of people, "Oh, we came in last night. We're so, oh my gosh, we just got here today and we got to the hotel and we're trying to change and get to the wedding." Like it's just you don't have that vibe at all. Everybody is there to chill and be on vacation. So that is something really nice about destination weddings. But you will get people who fall off. Like when you pitch a destination wedding as a couple to your friends and family, they're usually so quick to be like, "Yes, absolutely. We'll go anywhere." And then when their year comes in front of them, okay, we have this much vacation days, we have this much money, to spend on travel, then guests are actually deciding like, okay, can we actually do this? And there is some disappointment that I find with destination couples where people will say they're going to come before they book and then not come. Like I have this right now with one of my couples. They are having a 10-person wedding. That's it. So you'd think it would be like every single person's coming. It's literally just their immediate
Yeah.
families, just the bride and groom's parents and siblings. And that is it. That is the only people invited. And the bride's brother is not coming. Even though before they booked it, he was going to come. He was like officially 100% coming. And now it's 1 month out and he's not coming. So it's
Yeah.
just such a bummer. Like sometimes people overpromise,
It's
and
so interesting because
hard.
I've almost had the opposite experience with couples that are having destination weddings here. I had one couple that it was 150 people. That's what they said. And it came up like a month and a half before the wedding. And I was like, what? Like, how many people are actually coming? They're from Chicago, actually, funny enough. And they're like, so it's like 175. And I was like, oh, and like immediately I knew that ballroom. I was like, that's going to be tight. Like, and I knew, I mean, I just feel like I've experienced where people are like surprised at how many people are coming.
No, that's happened to my clients too. Both ways have happened, but with a destination wedding, especially one as far away as Hawaii, it's like a 5-hour flight even from California.
Yeah. It's a lot further.
It's far.
Yeah.
Right. We found that there are more often people disappointed the other way, that the guest count is lower. But sometimes that's a feature, not a bug. It's only really a bummer when it's like your closest friends or closest family who you really wanted to come and you were counting on them coming. But there's a lot of couples who one of their parents is like one of 10 or one of 8. You know, they have a ridiculous number of aunts and uncles and first cousins, and they have to invite all those people. Like they have no choice but to invite all those people. And by having a destination wedding where they know many of them won't come, they can actually have the wedding that they want. Because if their guest count's 300 and they're going to spend more on a 300 person wedding in wherever than they would on a 100-person wedding in Hawaii. That's actually the wedding.
Yes. If there's one way for your couple to elevate their wedding with you, what would you suggest?
Yeah, I would say more events, definitely more than just the wedding for sure. But I think couples really get hung up on every single event needs to be free for the guests. And I don't think that that's actually true. If you have enough of them, like it's nice to have a welcome event or rehearsal dinner that people are invited to that you are paying for. But does it need to be like, okay, we're going on a catamaran snorkel or we're going to Volcano National Park and we're paying for every single person? No. So it's kind of like a come or don't come, but guests really love to be told where to be and what to do and to have the choice to attend or not attend. Like, especially when someone comes so far, they want to spend more than just a few minutes with you at your wedding. They want to see you. And that is something that I hear actually from my couples. I know I said I have very few of these, but from my couples who live on the Big Island, and their guests are all coming from elsewhere, that I hear this consistently is that they're so busy with their wedding, everything's so crazy, and they don't even feel like they got to see their guests that much. And their guests came all the way out to Hawaii to see them. So by having lots of like, oh, we're just going to this beach, we're having a beach hang, that is great. So a really great itinerary is something that I would recommend for all of my couples to really make the vacation vibe.
I love that. I think that's so great. And I feel like I'm seeing that more and more. Actually, I just chatted with a bride who got married in Italy on the island of Capri. And they had a wedding event the day after the wedding. And she's like, I don't know that we necessarily needed to foot the bill for that, but create it as like an optional thing.
And as far as the like paying for things, you know, if you're doing a rehearsal dinner, maybe it's nice to pay for the dinner, but people can buy their own drinks. Or, you know, like you don't have to pay for every single part of every single experience. Or let's say you're doing a rehearsal dinner and you're paying for the drinks and the food, but do you need to offer a shuttle for guests to that? Or can they drive themselves? You know, like there are ways to cut costs without seeming cheap. It doesn't feel cheap, quote unquote, to your guests, as long as the whole week or, you know, weekend or whatever experience is good and has a lot of good quality time with your guests. They're not going to feel that they weren't taken care of.
I love that. I think that is a really great point. One of my last questions is, tell me, why are you worth it?
Okay. Oh, right. That's the name of the podcast. Got it. I would say there's a number of reasons why we're worth it, but probably the biggest is our knowledge and passion for the logistics of the wedding. I got into this a little bit with the budgeting, but yes, we love design. Yes, we love weddings. We love love. We're romantics, but we really work hard on the logistics of your wedding, the timeline, the details, the shuttle schedule, you know, the menu. Okay, this table, how much food there's going to be to make sure the food doesn't run out, or the amount of ice that there's going to be at the wedding so that the ice doesn't run out, or whatever the case might be, so that just everything is so seamless for you as the couple. And unless you have a planner who's excellent at logistics, that just will not be your experience with them. There are planners who are amazing at design, but they are just not good at logistics. And everyone at on our team is very, very good at logistics and comes to the design second.
That is so important too, because what you see all over Pinterest and Instagram is the design, but the logistics is what pulls that together and makes that possible and creates the experience, the seamless experience.
The spot that you see that is in reviews. So when you're picking a wedding planner and I mean, basically for the listeners who are listening to this, you can only hire me if you're getting married on the Big Island, Hawaii. So for the vast majority of the listeners, you're not hiring me. That's fine. But when you're looking at what planner you want to hire, look at their reviews, and you don't want to see things, or you don't want to only see things like, let's say that your planner's name is Kelsey. Kelsey put everything together beautifully. It all came together beautifully. It was my vision exactly. Everything was exactly how I always pictured. If the reviews are only saying things like that, that is not it's not necessarily a red flag, but it's something I would question a little bit. You want to see things in the review like, I didn't have to worry about a thing. I had zero stress on my wedding day. I knew everything that was getting done. Whenever I sent Kelsey an email, she was responding right away. She was so responsive. She was so communicative. She was so organized. No detail was left unturned.
Yeah.
Those are the things you should be looking for in the reviews to make sure that you're hiring somebody with that level of logistics skill. And also, I know this is going to sound like a weird one, but don't be afraid to ask for a reference and call or email them, like a client reference. And also, you don't even need to ask for a reference. You can just DM some references. Most planners are tagging their clients, like in the photos of them online, or like, oh, we loved working with Joe and Sally so much, and then they tag them in their Instagram. Yeah, I'm Joe and Sally. Be like, hey, I'm thinking about hiring so-and-so. Did you like them? Because I hear so often from couples that they did not like their planner, but they didn't hate them. Like they just didn't have a good experience, but it was okay. You want anybody who worked with your planner to be giving raving reviews. And I hope that all of our clients are giving those raving reviews, but I honestly think that they are. It's something that, as the couple searching for a planner, you don't always think of, because you're looking at the beautiful photos of their website. You're looking at all the things, is it really stress-free and effortless? I don't know.
Yeah. That's a really great point. I feel like you have a unique background coming from being a venue owner too, that lends itself well to that logistical side.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, before I was a venue owner, I was a lawyer, actually. So that also definitely helps with my organization skills and all of those pieces of it. But being a lawyer was just like really boring for me. And it just was not fulfilling. So being a wedding planner, I love so much more.
I feel similarly about, not that teaching is at all the same to being a lawyer, but I feel this so much more fulfilling being in the wedding industry. And I have my own answer, but I'm curious why that is true for you.
There's a couple things. Being a lawyer, you're involved with people or companies or whatever the case might be in bad situations. You're not involved in like the happy situations of their life. And I guess there are event planners who maybe plan funerals or something, but I'm not one of them. Usually wedding planning is just so joyful and such a wonderful time in people's lives. So for that reason, just day to day, like the vibes are good. The vibes are good with being a wedding planner. But I will also say the other thing is that your satisfaction, your job satisfaction, or it sounds like a weird thing to say, but your praise that you get is very immediate. Like you have fulfillment right away. So for me, I was an environmental lawyer. So I was trying to get coal plants shut down, specifically in the state of Ohio, for Clean Water Act violations. So like I would work for a year trying to like petition the governor and get different things changed to get old coal plants that were polluting the waterways in Ohio shut down. And then the governor would just change. There'd be an election, new governor. Oh, all the work. It like doesn't even matter. There's like, and of course, all the environmental lawyers are doing like the real work. They're great people and are really important. But day to day, it's just such a slog. You never feel like you're getting ahead. You never feel like you can see the fruits of your labor. And it is the exact opposite with wedding planning. Like as soon as I send over a beautiful spreadsheet and I get an email back, like, oh my gosh, thank you so much, Kate. It's so clear to me now. This is such a relief to see it all laid out. I'm like, yes, you're welcome. It is. It is a relief. It's so great.
I've talked to one other wedding planner who is local, and she came over and she like flipped the script and she was asking me some questions. And that
Yeah.
is, I said, like, the thing is gratitude. I feel like there's this gratitude where that doesn't exist, I feel like, in very many industries. And there's also this joy that is involved in the entire process. Yeah, there's lots of emotions and there's family dynamics and all of those things, but it's really just this really sweet time that people know is special. And when they see how hard you've worked to help make their lives enjoyable and incredible or whatever,
Right.
like it's so rewarding. It's just the best. So
Exactly. Yeah, it just fills you with the warm fuzzies almost daily. And it's also varied. Like right now you're doing your job, I'm doing my job. We're on a podcast. And then later today I have to do a design board and I have an onboarding call with a new client. And then I have, like when I look at my day and my week and my month, it's varied every day. I'm doing the same job, but it's a little different.
I agree. It is. It kind of keeps you on your toes a little bit. And there's also
Yeah.
obviously freedom in owning your own business and all of that.
Yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons definitely to owning your own business for sure. But the number one thing is you don't have to work with someone. I have a thing in my contract, like a harassment clause. If somebody is mean to me or mean to someone on my team, it's just like, okay, bye. Like, we're not doing your wedding. I mean, we've never actually had to do that. We've never fired someone for being mean to us, but like just to know that we can, it is such a relief. Like we just don't have to put up with that. And as a teacher, I'm sure you had parents who were like not a cup of tea. And as a lawyer, like there's just all sorts of mean people. So
Yeah.
it's nice.
Yeah, I totally agree. I heard once that everybody in the wedding industry, I think you have to have a really big heart. And like, we're super cheesy in that way. We love, all of those things. And I think that plays itself out in how we run our businesses and interact with each other.